Discipline is a form of just winning. It's a form of doing what you hate to do, but doing it like you love it. And that's what discipline is. And I don't care how great you are and how much talent you are, without discipline, you're nothing.
Welcome to this episode of Chattin with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Jacob Duran.
What's going on, Bill?
How are you?
Good seeing you again, man. Now we finally get to talk on air.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're a busy guy.
Oh, it's been crazy. I'm trying. We'll talk about it, man. I got stories. So feel free to ask, man. I got stories. You got questions. I got answers.
100%. So before we get started, make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can get my videos every time they drop. So you are the epitome of the American dream.
Yeah.
You want to tell the people about your early life, what it was like?
Yeah, that's what I always tell people is that I'm no different than anybody else, man. I've just been blessed with opportunities, and those opportunities that have come, I've taken advantage of. But I grew up as a farm worker, in the San Joaquin Valley of California, which they consider the agricultural capital of the world, because you have everything there. We grow everything. And for the most part, I tell people, if you ate it, I probably picked it for you. And the clothes you're wearing, I picked cotton, So I was born and raised in a migrant camp, and my birth certificate for my address is CPC number 12. That's for the California Packing Company. So we were farm workers. That's what I did all my life. The second grade, we moved to a little town called Planada, which is like 4 miles away from the camp. And that's where I grew up. There was like 1,500 people, all for the most part farm workers. And so I played baseball. I was pretty good at baseball, so I walked down to Merced College. But unfortunately, I didn't have a car. So I would go to school with friends, and they would do their school, and I would stay and I would practice, and then I would have to hitchhike 9 miles back home. And I didn't know nothing about scholarships and grants, and this is 1972, and I joined the Air Force, and they kind of in 1974 they stationed me in a place called Thailand, and I always told myself if I went to the Orient, I'd want to study the martial arts. This was during the Bruce Lee era. Had friends that were already there, Staxx, and they invited me to some fights, and I'm thinking, being Mexican, I'm thinking boxing, right? And this guy throws a kick and knocks a guy out, and I said, "Oh, I'm in, bingo."
So before this point, have you ever been in a fight?
Yeah, of course. We're all in fights, right? But street fights, and that's why a lot of times we always have our backs against the wall, even till now, because in the summertime, that's a good question. In the summertime, our little town would get from 1,500 people to 3,000-4,000 because there were farm workers. There's farm workers coming from Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Mexico to come pick the crops. And of course, they would bring their daughters and sisters, and of course we would hit up on them. So you had to learn how to fight, but that wasn't the issue. So I got into the martial arts, and I trained there for that whole year, and got into boxing, and then I opened up a school of kickboxing with a credit card, show you how crazy I was. And I was a trainer before I was a cutman, and I promoted fighters, and I managed them, and I did everything that was manageable, and being a cutman was floating to the top. So I moved to Vegas 28 years ago, and here I am talking to you again.
How did you go from? Did you want to be a cutman, and who did you look up to back then? Who were your inspirations?
Yeah, good question. I never thought about being a cutman. It was just one of the programs I had to learn to work with my fighters, and wrapping hands and working cuts, especially in kickboxing, was it was mandatory almost. But that's a good question. In those days, it was boxing only, and these boxing guys would not tell you their secrets. They thought that he would take their job. But I remember Bone Crusher Smith fought Marvis Frazier, the son of Joe Frazier in Richmond, California. And I was making the progression into being a cut man. And this guy did a nice job on cuts. And I went over there and I asked him, I say, look, I'm trying to learn to be a cut man. Can you tell me what you did? He says, fuck you. He says, I'm taking this to my grave and you got to learn like me. And he walked away. And I felt about this big. And I said, I'm never going to be like that, man. I'm going to teach. I was a martial artist anyway. So our job is always to teach, right? And so, I mean, I've done this story hundreds of times. I've never mentioned his name once because that wasn't important. But now I go back with Andre Ward. He's the undisputed champ in Oakland. I lived in Oakland also, right? For many years. That's where I got started in boxing. And, of course, my credibility went up a lot. And he forgot about it. And now him and his son want to take a picture with me, you know. So I did. And I thought deep inside, I said, yep, you know, I got you, man. You just let me be not like you, but to go out there and help people. And that's what I've been doing. Is my legacy is to teach and take care of fighters.
Yeah, that abrasive attitude, like people that are cocky. There's a lot of them out there. I'm sure you run across them all the time.
Hey, I did a show at the Garden. Vladimir Klitschko's fighting. I can't remember who's fighting. Layla Ali's in the dressing room. But I get in early because I'm working with one of the Ukrainian fighters, one of the earlier fights. And I'm in the dressing room and I'm down on my knees. I'm opening up my bag and I'm getting all my stuff out. This guy from behind me says, I'm from New York. No, you're from Los Angeles. I'm from New York. And I looked back and I said, I'm from Las Vegas, you know. But then I'm thinking, I said, what was going through his mind, you know, for him to come over there and throw that comment out at me. He said, you're from Los Angeles. I'm from New York. I said, okay, we're good. Well, from Las Vegas, you know.
Yeah. So do you come across that a lot, or have you ever been challenged? Like you're around all these fighters all the time. Has anyone ever challenged you?
No. I've been fortunate enough at that. They know I come in with good intentions, and for the most part, you know, it was the old veterans that had that mentality that I'm taking this to my grave, and you got to learn just like me, you know. But now I always make a lot of comments on what not to do as a cut man, you know. So I try to help guys out as much as possible.
That's great, man. You're teaching people for the next generation that's coming up.
Well, you have to, you know, Staxx, because my only job is to take care of these fighters, you know, and before, I mean, that's our only job. And when you look at the long-term damages that these guys could receive, number one, it's a tough business. You know, it's a tough business, and it's a hurt business. And as Eddie Mustafa Muhammad, the great legendary Hall of Famer, said, you know, our ultimate goal is to render our opponent unconscious, and that's a knockout. You know, so you know, to get the knockout, you're going to create some kind of damage for somebody down the road, and I understand that. And I think fighters understand that. So, you know, my job has always been to protect them, and the guys that I work with, and I try to teach, and guys that try to emulate what we do is take care of the fighter. Our only objective. I done so many fights, Stack, that I don't care if they win. Well, I do care if they win, you know, lose, but that's not my issue. You know, world title fight. Somebody asked me the other day, I said, how many world title fights have you done? I said, man, I can't even count them. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, but those aren't even the issues anymore. It's about the characters, and that's what makes my job so much fun.
So now you wrap hands, you take care of people's wounds. Has anybody had any injuries on their hands or their bodies? Because I know you take care of the face and the hands, but has anybody had any injuries on their body where you're like it's just different, right?
Yeah, Andre Ward. I can't remember who was going to fight, but I get into town and Virgil Hunter, his coach, says Andre hurt his hand in training, and I said, all right. So I know psychology is also a major part of what we do, right? So I went into Andre's room in the hotel, and we talked about the injury, and so I made some adjustments. I wrapped his hands, and I made the adjustments to where we kind of solidified and protected the areas that were injured. And I took that out of his mind, and going to the fight, he ended up winning the fight. You know, cuts. I've had guys that say, you know, I kind of got this cut a couple of weeks ago in sparring. What do you think? You know, so those are issues. Communications is always key, and you know, to get those kind of comments, they happen in combat sports.
Yeah, like so after you're unwrapping their hands, have you had a lot of broken hands? A lot of fighters with broken hands?
It's been a long time, but I always tell people there's a lot of myths in this game where we try to educate, but like Shakir Stevenson fought the other day, and out of that, normally I work with him, and I do work with him as a cutman and wrap his hands, but that night I'm doing 7 fights out of the 10. So Bob Ware, that's the cutman for Floyd Mayweather, wrapped a great hand. He wrapped his hands because Shakir had always had some issues with his hands, and he ended up. Well, Bob called me at the end at the fights. He goes, "Hey man, why is Top Rank saying that Shakir hurt his hands?" I said, "Well, look, man, don't ever let nothing like that bother you, because when you wrap a fighter's hands, it doesn't guarantee that he's not gonna break it. It will minimize the probabilities, and those are the myths that we got to dispel. Oh man, he wrapped his hands, he does a shitty job. Well, that's not the case. A lot of times just he hits a guy on top of the head, or hit him on the elbow, and it's all angle. Everything's angled. So that's a big myth.
You were showing it in one of your interviews. The box.
The metacarpal. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is like your number one injury. It's a little lump. Because when you punch, your hand does this way, so you try to lock it in. Let me get right. You try to lock it in this way as much as possible, so it doesn't bend, and that comes through experience.
Yeah, there was some controversy with your hand wrapping techniques. Do you want to talk about that?
What controversy? I've never heard of any.
when you the stacking, people had a problem with it.
No, it wasn't my issue. It was when Triple G fought. Oh, you did your homework, man. I like that. When Triple G fought Canelo the first time, Tom Loeffler called me, and we're friends. He also worked with the Klitschko's, and I worked with the Klitschko's for 8 years. And he asked me, he says, "What do you think about stacking?" And because they had filed a complaint with the Nevada State Athletic Commission. So Tom asked me what I thought about stacking. I said, it's bullshit. I said, the only reason you wrap a fighter's hands is so they don't break them. And as long the rule book reads, the tape has to be 1 inch away from the knuckles going down. And as long as if it's gauze tape, use the same amount of gauze, the same amount of tape, different techniques. As long as the rule book says it's 1 inch away from the knuckles going down, what's the issue? So Bob, the head commissioner for Nevada State Athletic Commission, called me also. And he asked me, what do you think? I said, it's bullshit. Because they want to get the second fight in Vegas. It's a lot of money. So I met Bob here at one of the gyms, and I wrapped his hands conventional way, and I wrapped them stacked, and he didn't feel that much of a difference. I said, there's not a difference. Everything is based on technique, on pressure points, and this and that. Well, the next day he brought a hand specialist, and I did the same thing. I wrapped his hands conventional and stacking, and he didn't feel that much of a difference. So fast forward, now they had the second Canelo fight in Las Vegas, because those are the myths I'm talking about. Hey, Stack, is there so much bullshit in this game that people they throw stupid things out there, and my job is to at least educate the public and educate the fighters and the cutmen as well.
Yeah, they were trying to say that it was like a cast, like you're like building a cast on their hand, right?
And my point, and I tell people, how many times have guys that said, "Man, my hand feels like a cast when I wrap it." That's the confidence. That's a good wrap. Whenever the guy feels like Forrest Griffith said early on in the UFC career, he said, "Man, my hands feel so good, I can punch my mother." And that's what you want to create, right? But like I say, as long as the rule book says nothing, above, where the knuckles are at, because in the old days they would put tape everywhere, and it still didn't make no sense, So education, bro.
Yeah. So have you ever seen anyone try to cheat, like where they come and maybe they try to finagle with their wrappings to get the advantage on the other person?
There was a who was it? Pacquiao. We did a show in Macau, and the head instructor is saying, or the head inspector is, you can't get your tape, you can't roll it, put it between the fingers and this and that. So I go in the dressing room and I watch him Pacquiao rap, and he's fighting Chris Algieri, and this is in Macau. And I'm watching rap, and they roll the tape up and they put it between the fingers. And I said, you can't do that. So I talked to the head inspector, the guy that says you can't do it, and he said, well, this is boxing, you know. And I said, well, bullshit, you know. But that's what I'm talking about. It was just all these different adjustments and all that. So yeah, you know, they try to cheat, and to me, they're stupid, because as you look at logic, all right, the theory behind rolling the tape, they would use the whole inch tape or 2-inch tape and roll it and make it thicker, and then it would go between the fingers. And their theory that it would penetrate and go through the glove. But you got this much padding on the glove, you think that is going to penetrate through there and go in? So it's a lot of myths in boxing that we have to correct.
Yeah. So is there a big difference for you doing a fight in the U.S. versus out of the U.S. with the technique you use or the regulations that they have?
No, the techniques I use are all international. You know, those are the ones I always try to teach because they are international. But some commissions aren't as good as others. You know, being here in Las Vegas, the best commission, you know, just worldwide in what they do. So a lot that I've learned through the doctors and everything, and I apply that with these guys. But no, it's never been an issue. And you know, I'll go into different countries and they respect me for what I do. You know, yeah. Like I've even had a doctor that said, you know, Stitch, I'm good at what I do, but I'm not good at what you do. You know, so yeah, you know, they understand now at this level that I'm not here to cheat the game. I'm far from it. You know, I'm here to educate. And you know, you have some guys that will question me, not knowing, not having an answer, right? And I'll put them in check and I'll embarrass them in front of everybody.
So what about, are you ever the cut man and the rap man for both sides?
Yeah, I've done it all the time, especially in the MMA. You know, I do it all the time, and I'll be wrapping your hands and working your opponent's corner. You know, and next time I'll be working your corner and wrapping his hands. You know, I'm not there. I'm here to take care of you. You're there to fight. You know, so and my job is to give you every probability to win the fight. That's it, simple as that. And it even happens now with boxing. And I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm working with Shane Mosley Jr. in Houston on the zone. But working with Top Rank, they brought us in, me and Mike Basil, as house cutmen. And it's often I'll wrap your hands and work your opponent's corner. And, you know, they understand that I'm not here. You know, whoever calls, man, you all got my number. You know, so.
Has anyone ever got mad? The opponent, why you wrapping his hand? Like, did anyone ever? No.
Now, you know, Vitor Belfort said it best in an interview. He says, when I see Stitch walking into the dressing room, even though I know he's working the other corner, he brings that calming effect, you know, and that's my mission. My one and only mission is to bring that calming effect and to take care of these guys, you know.
Boost their confidence. A lot of people
when
they see you, yeah.
Little things in life, you know, and Vladimir Klitschko, I'll give you an example. When he fought Anthony Joshua, his last fight at Wembley Stadium, I didn't get there till Thursday night, so I didn't see him till Friday at the weigh-ins. But I'm sitting there, I'm talking to him, and him and Vitaly, and you know, getting the details on how you feel and this and that, what have you not. Finally, at the end, I put my hand on Vladimir's shoulder and I said, "Look, don't worry about nothing tomorrow. I'm gonna take care of you like you're my son." And I leave because I know he can't. The night before, these guys can't sleep, right?
Yeah, man.
I put the Vaseline on him. They stacked 90,000 crazy Brits. Sounds like about 150,000 Americans, just loud, right? Michael Buffer, right before he does his announcement, I'm putting the final Vaseline on Vladimir with maybe, well, he's this tall, about this, that. And he looks at me and says, "You could call me son." Man, that gave me chills. Like it gave me chills just now, but I knew that I had gotten into his mind. And one of the best fights he ever had in his career, you know. And I saw him, 3-4 months later. It's the last time I saw him, you know. And I asked him, we were in Germany together. And, well, we were in Germany. I was there for a different fight. I said, "Vladimir, that one moment, why?" Very simply, I said, "Why?" He says, Stitch, he goes, there's very few people I trust in my life. You are one of them. So I'll kind of let you listen. I'm looking for this piece. When I was doing the Creed movie, Michael B. Jordan always came to me and asked me for authenticity. So the question he asked is, who should give away the WBC belt? And so I gave him the story of Jose Suleiman, Mexico City. He created it, the most prestigious belt out there, and so on. So they did. You know, we picked out a guy to give away the belt. So I saw his son Mauricio because in Dallas when Spence fought Ugas. And I mentioned that to him, that here's how we represented the belt. And then we talked about Vladimir Vitaly Klitschko because they were both WBC champions. And he says, well, let's take a picture and let's send it to them, right? Vladimir sent me this comment, and I'm going to see if I can let you listen to it. And it kind of shows you how guys feel about me working with them, right? So this is crazy.
My two favorite men, especially Stitch, with whom I spent so much time talking, and he actually saved my career on a lot of different stages. If Stitch wouldn't be in my corner, I would not make the record of 12 years being a champion. So that's so great to see you both, and Stitch is the man.
That says it all right there, bro. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I tell you, I almost cried when I heard that because, you know, they're right in the trenches of the war with Russia. And, you know, Vitaly is the mayor of Kiev, which is a capital, and Vladimir is the face of the country. And, you know, for him to have sent those golden words under those circumstances to me meant a lot. So it's crazy. Huh?
It is pretty wild. That's
I
wild.
tell you, yeah.
So you've been at so many professional boxing matches. What was it like to first meet Mike Tyson?
You know, it's funny. We were talking about Mike the other day. I did pads for Mike. You know, I used to do pads. I was a trainer before I was a cutman. So I was real good at doing pads. When I moved to Vegas, I didn't come to be a trainer because I thought all the great trainers in the world were here, the boxing capital of the world, right? But I would see what these guys would do. I said, I could do that, and I could do that. So I started doing pads, and people recognized me. But I had an 8-to-5 job. I worked for R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company, but I would sneak off during because pros train in the daytime from like 12 to 4, and I would sneak off and go do some pads and go back. So Panama Lewis, if you remember Panama Lewis, a crazy guy, he called me to do pads for Mike. And I would have been, because we would always train in the same gym, and I would have been happy just to do 1 week worth of pad work with him, or one day. Well, I ended up doing like 2 weeks worth of work, and then he left because he was getting a divorce, and he came back and he started working with Freddie Roach. But I had known Mike before that, and I worked with some of his fighters, and I remember Mike, we're in Phoenix, Arizona. Danny Batchelder is fighting, and we're in the dressing room, and Mike ordered Alaskan King Crab for the dressing room, and we're there, and we're talking, and he's talking about his time in prison and how he was on the phone, and this guy keeps walking back and forth, and he's looking at him, and the guy's looking at Mike, and finally some of the guys in the prison says, Mike, don't worry about it. We got you covered with this guy, you know. And but no, just to have done pads with Mike was pretty awesome, and you know. Yeah, super guy, man.
That was before he got the tattoo, right?
Well, hey, man, that was before he got his tattoos. And you know, this guy took a picture of us, and the next day wanted to sell it to me for $50. And I said, man, what a piece of garbage. I said, I would have bought it just because it was me and Mike, right? But if it was $20, $25, okay, it would have been a different story, right? And but. Yeah, $50. I told him to kind of kiss my ass.
Oh, because they didn't have camera phones back then. It wasn't that.
No, he took a picture. Yeah. So I listened to another story, another thing of. So years back, I did I put a documentary together with this young kid, John Barnhouse, that just graduated from the American Film Institute, and I knew zero about film, but he had read where I wanted to do videos. And the videos I wanted to do were wrapping hands and working cuts, educational. Well, we got so many interviews that we decided to make a documentary called Boxer's Nightmare. Never did nothing with it. But all these guys are Hall of Famers. Well, 20 years later, I hadn't seen it in 20 years. John passed away about 6 months ago. And young kid, he was like 43 at this point. He was like 23 when he graduated. And I hadn't seen this film in such a long time that I looked at it as a tribute to him. And I looked at it and I realized, I said, everybody I have here are all Hall of Famers. Everybody I interviewed are all Hall of Famers. Some are dead now. Emanuel Stewart, Chuck Bodak, Mills Lane, you know, these guys all passed away. And got so many, Mike Tyson before he got his tattoo. So the question I asked Mike is,